Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit differently, and we're going to do an interview with a new Ford GT owner. His name is Michael Murray, and he's a really interesting guy and has a long history of racing and a long history with the Ford brand. He has many interesting stories to tell, so I think you guys will really enjoy this video and get to know him. And he'll also show us around his new Ford GT, as well as take us on a quick ride. So without further ado, let's start with the video. All right, Michael, thank you so much for coming out today.
Hi,
I really
James.
appreciate you doing this.
Happy to be here.
So I figured we'd start a little bit about the history of you with racing, and I guess your history with the car as well, with the Ford GT. So give it your all.
I'm going to start with how I got this passion for automobiles. When I was a kid, 10 years old, I was in my dad's car. There were 8 of us kids in a Chevy station wagon, and I saw coolest car. It was a light green Kaiser Darren 2-seated Roadster.
Wow.
And that car was only made for 1 year. It was unique for the time. It was totally fiberglass, and the doors slid into the front fender. I'd never seen another car like it since, but that car really caught my eye. And then maybe a year or two later, I saw it as a model car at the drugstore. So I bought that model car, and that was my first model amongst 50 or 100 that I built when I was a kid. We didn't have a lot to eat at home. We were poor. There was enough food per meal. There were no snacks afterwards. There were no leftovers. So I had to go to work at an early age. And I had a paper route. Prior to that, I babysat. I had a little boy I babysat for the neighborhood. And prior to that, I had a shoe shine box, and I would shine shoes at the barber shop. I did anything I could do to earn a quarter to buy a milkshake. Once I had the paper route, I was totally independent on my own, because I was making about $5 a week, which was a lot of money for a kid. And a milkshake was only a quarter, so I knew I could go down to the drugstore every night and buy a milkshake after dinner and fill my stomach. While in the drugstore, all drugstores at that time had an ice cream parlor. So I'd sit at the swivel seat and drink my milkshake, and if I swiveled around, right behind me were the magazine racks with the hot rod magazines. In the hot rod magazines is where I met the famous pinstriper Von Dutch. Von Dutch came along in the 50s and started pinstriping hot rods. And in the hot rod magazines, he sold decals. So I bought a little brush, and I cut it down to about 6 hairs, and some testers, model paint, and I would pinstripe. I would copy his designs on my little model cars. One of the things I did after I'd go to the drugstore and get a milkshake, I had maybe 3 guys that lived in my neighborhood in South Toledo that built hot rods home in their garage. One of them was a guy by the name of Bob Kime. There were the famous Roberts twins, lived over on Colton Street, and my buddies Roby and Terry Schumann lived on Brighton and Geneva. Well, I spent more time at Bob Kime's because he was just 3 blocks away. Ride my bicycle down there and watch him work on his 1950 Olds lead sled. And I still remember the color he painted. It was metallic Paris rose with a beautiful dark pink. It was a rose color.
And what exactly is a lead sled?
A lead sled is a full-size sedan. In this case, it was an Oldsmobile, 50
Okay.
Olds.
Okay.
And you would customize it.
Okay.
You'd take the ornaments off the front. It was called nosing it. You'd take them off, fill them in with lead.
Okay.
So there were no ornaments. And a lot of those guys, they chopped the top. It was an art. It's a real skill to customize a car. Well, that was what we had for customized cars in that day. So one day, Bob said, "Hey, kid, you want to go to the paint store with me?" I said, "Sure." So we went to the paint store, and I walked in, and here on the back wall was a cardboard display for MAC pinstriping brushes. 99 cents. I bought my first brush. Well, the next craze that came along then was car names. All the hot rodders had a name on their car. So one day I played CYO basketball on the weekends, and I had to take a bus because I didn't have a car. And I saw a sign painter painting a sign on a window at the Roundup Cafe. And I was fascinated. Walked back across the street, and I'm watching the guy paint. I was working on learning how to do that. He said, "The middle school isn't down here." But there's a guy down in Monroe Street by the name of Wally. Monday after school, I walked from Central Catholic High School down to Monroe at 17th to Wally Sign Company, introduced myself and said, and I had some of my artwork with me, and I said, I want to learn how to paint signs. Well, he said, you got a lot to learn, kid. But he said, I'll give you a job. You're going to be the shop boy. $1.10 an hour. You're going to sweep the floor after school, clean up, and you can watch me paint. I'll teach you how to silk screen. He taught me everything. By the time I graduated from high school, I was a journeyman sign painter, making $3.25 an hour, which was the going union rate at that time. And I learned an awful lot from Wally, how to handle a brush, how to mix colors. Then I lettered car names. I went to car shows and lettered car names for the weekend, and was making pretty good money for a kid. My first car was a 58 Chevy 348 black convertible, 4-barrel, 3 on the tree, which I converted to a floor shift. I met a guy by the name of Bob Hobby, who was a darn good body man. He had some old brass bombshells. And the way the exhaust came out from behind the wheel was a bend. And he cut that brass bombshell up, cut a hole in the exhaust pipe, put the brass bombshell over it, then put a cap on it so I could uncap a straight pipe.
Wow.
That car was so loud that if you're a hot rodder, you like the noise. At least I do. But I saw an Austin Healey, 1957, and that caught my eye, and it reminded me of the Kaiser Darren. So I bought a 57 Austin Healey, then I bought a 1962 Austin Healey, and while I had that Austin Healey, I met some people from the Fiasco Sports Car Club in Toledo. Fiasco is an acronym for Ford Industry Auto Sports Club of Ohio. Good bunch of people. The club is no longer in existence, but I'm still in touch with about a half a dozen of them because you build friendships through automobiles. They did what we call slalom racing. They might take a parking lot at a shopping center and put up a whole bunch of cones. You'd race through, and the fastest guy got the trophy. Well, I was in, I think, C or D production, and I put racing tires on the Austin Healey, and I did so-so with it. When I was 21 years old, I bought the Perma Bench Company. I owned 400 bus stop benches in the Toledo area. What caught my eye about buying that business, he was a friend of my dad's and he was retiring, was this guy had to hire somebody to paint the signs. I could paint all my own signs. I bought the company, I converted my dad's garage into a sign shop and painted all of my signs. I go out in the morning, suit and tie, and would paint a full-size bus bench ad, which was 2 foot by 6 foot on cardboard, cut it so it'd fold out, and I'd go in and sell the space. Well, Brondy's Ford was the big advertiser at the time. Radio, TV, newspaper. Brondy's Ford was smashing prices. Don Brondy's had a sledgehammer, and on a TV ads, he would smash the windshield. They spent a lot of money on advertising, so I went and called on them and wanted to sell them some advertising. Well, in the showroom was a beautiful blue with white competition stripes Shelby GP350 and a dark red metallic 289 Cobra. The Cobra was $7,200, the Mustang was $3,400, and I worked out a deal with Phil Brondy's and for advertising, and walked out of there with a contract for advertising and a brand new Shelby GP350. The next year, then I took the Shelby and put a set of racing tires on and started going to the SCCA or the Fiasco Sports Car Club events and started winning my class. And then before you know it, I was winning fastest time of day. And what was really fun for me was I was teased mercifully by the Corvette people. They'd walk by my car and listen to it rust. Then I started winning fastest time of day, and I would blow their doors off. About that time, a friend invited me to go to a real SCCA Sports Car Club of America wheel-to-wheel race up at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. And I saw wheel-to-wheel sports car racing for the first time, and it just blew me away. Came home in that winter, a couple buddies and I stripped the car and made it into a B production sports car. Raced that car until halfway through 1971. Ford quit, both Ford and Shelby quit developing that car, literally after 67 or 68. So the car was no longer competitive. In order to win, you had to have a Corvette. We were down in mid-Ohio, and here came a guy showed up by the name of Jack Greenwood, and he had a gold coupe with pop-up headlights. and in those headlights were two scoops, air scoops for the engine. He blew their doors off. That was the end of the Owens Corning team. John Greenwood became the dominant Corvette driver and team. So in 1971, I went to John and said, "Hey John, would you build me a B production car?" He said, "I'll tell you what, I'm building a brand new car right now. I'll give you my old car." It's the number 50 Corvette, very famous because that car in 71 won the 24 hours at Daytona, 12 hours at Sebring, and 6 hours at Watkins Glen. He said, "You can have the car after Watkins Glen, which is the middle of July. I'll convert it to B production." They had to put the small block engine in it and deliver the car. I got in 6 races, SCCA races, with that car at the end of the season. Never finished lower than second. Got a win and a track record up at Brainerd, Minnesota at Donnybrook Racetrack. The following year, 71, first race of the year was a pro race, called the Uncola 500 at Donnybrook in Minnesota. Well, I had my B production engine in the car, and I thought we'd go a little faster. That racetrack had a mile straightaway, and then turn 1 was wide open, as was turn 2. So really you needed a big block, and down at the Gulf gas station at the corner from where my race shop was in South Toledo, I noticed a 427 engine laying out behind the gas station. It was a junk 427 truck engine, cast iron. I bought it for $200. My mechanic, Todd Hammett, took it apart, put a good crankshaft in it, pistons, aluminum pistons, balanced the engine. We did a valve job on it, put an Elderbrock manifold and a 4-barrel carburetor, and put it in the back of our truck and hauled to Brainerd. I won the B production race on Saturday, set the track record, and that night we wanted to pull the little engine out, put the big engine in. I knew it was going to rain, and they had a tech barn where they did tech inspection. I rented it for $3. Ike and I, my co-driver, stayed and helped the team until about midnight, and we had to get some sleep. So we had a 500-mile race the next day. But the guys worked all night, and we got back out there in the morning about 6 o'clock, and because of the rain, all the campers, people camping out, ended up at the barn. There were probably 100 people in that barn. And we walk into a standing ovation, and they had just started the car. They had a problem fitting the headers on it. We started 6th, which was our B production time, because qualifying got rained out, and we'd never done a pit stop before. And we never had time to practice, so we had to learn while we were doing it. Today they do a pit stop, they got 2 guns, we had 1 gun. And the guy that didn't have the gun, he had to use the old-fashioned spinner to change the tires. We had at least 3 or 4 pit stops that day, but we finished 3rd. I had a Goodyear tire deal. They would give me tires for free. Well, after we did so well at the Uncola 500, I called Lee Gogg at Goodyear and said, "Lee, we don't want to run any more amateur races. We want to get on the IMSA Pro Circuit." He said, "Most unfortunate." After the Uncola 500, the first IMSA race was 2 weeks later back at Donnybrook. Ike put us on the pole. We were leading the race when that engine was tired and blew up. So we needed another big engine, and at that time the dominant sports car series in America was called the Can-Am Series, Canadian American Series. The dominant team at that time was the McLaren team. McLaren, they won everything. Bruce McLaren, Chris Hammond, and Peter Revson. But there were also other teams that raced. The other major manufacturer was a team called Lola. Lola had their engines built in Detroit by a guy by the name of George Foltz. George Foltz went to high school with my mechanic, Todd Hammett. So I said to Todd, call George and see if he'll build us it was a 427. Well, he did better than that. He built us a 470 cubic inch monster engine. We go to our very first race, which was in 72, the 6 hours at Mid-Ohio. And my co-driver, who was incredible, put us on the pole by 2 full seconds. The headline in competition press was Ike and Mike lead the international stars in the dust. And then another story I want to tell you is when we first went to Daytona. We get down to Daytona, which is the mecca for sports car racing people. If you watch the 24 Hours today, the very famous turn is called the bus stop. It's a chicane at the end of the straightaway. before you go into turn 3. Well, not in our day. It was wide open. You come out on the high bank, it was wide open all the way down the back straightaway. You held your foot to the floor through turn 3, through turn 4. Well, there was a little surprise in turn 4 called the tunnel bump. There was a tunnel that went under the track for vehicles to get into the infield. And when you hit that bump at, say, 180 miles an hour, it would move you up a car width. And I said, don't be surprised, but you just hang on for dear life. Jeez. That's all, but don't do anything stupid. I did qualify. I qualified. We started 7th overall out of 54 cars, and we finished qualified 2nd in our class, which was GTO class. Goodyear was my main sponsor. 2 years earlier, John Greenwood left Goodyear for Goodrich, BF Goodrich.
Okay.
BF Goodrich wanted to race radial street tires in the IMSA series. Well, Goodyear, not to be outdone, developed a real radial slick racing tire. And they were going to blow Greenwood's doors off, so they hired 4 teams. One was Roger Penske with Mark Donohue and George Fulmer. Then the very famous Bromus Porsche team out of Jacksonville, Florida. They hired a Corvette team out of Tampa, Florida, Hines and Johnson. Hines was very famous for the orange Corvette, Stars and Stripes. And then the Little Murray Racing Team Corvette out of Toledo, Ohio. At Daytona, at that time, there were no garages. They had just lean-tos. But there were 2 individual garages, one owned by Holman and Moody, and the other owned by Jaguar Sparkplug. Well, Roger Penske had the Holman and Moody garage, and the Murray Racing Team had the Champion garage, because my mechanic worked at Champion Sparkplug. So Jerry Thompson had marathon money. He said, I'll bring the engine, you got the car. Unfortunately, that engine only lasted 2 hours, but we started 7th, and we were running 5th at the end of the first lap. Mike was an incredible driver. And if you're going to brake at Daytona, brake early, because you can imagine the heartache of being on the racetrack for 22, 23 hours and then brake. So
Yep.
That was one of my favorite stories.
You have obviously been attached to the Ford brand for a long time. And explain to me, I guess, a little bit more about your relationship after your racing career. I mean, eventually you had a Ford GT, not this one, but how did you maintain that relationship with Ford?
Well, I danced to the beat of a different drum. Everybody's got to be in Chevrolets, I got to be in a Ford. The car came out, it was originally in 137, that was affordable, then it was 147, then it went to 157, and it was not, it was out of my price range. So I opted to have built a Cobra.
Really?
So I went to Backdraft Racing in Boynton Beach, Florida, had them build me a Cobra. I flew down in the fall, and 5 months later flew back, picked it up and drove it home. It was a beautiful black roadster with white competition stripes. Fun car. I had it for a year because I had kind of given up on getting the Ford GT. I get a postcard in the mail. See, I shopped all the Cobra builders to get the best deal and get the best car. And Super Performance was a top-notch name in Cobra building. And my friend Brian McMahon had a Super Performance Cobra, as a matter of fact. Well, anyways, I opted for the Backdraft Racing. They had a picture of the GT40 Mark II. They were reproducing the original GT40s that raced at Daytona, Sebring, and Le Mans. They had led you to believe if you ordered it now, which was in fall, you can have the car in the spring. So my boss came in the office, Pam Rose, and she said, I said, Pam, here's my new car. She said, I want to buy your Cobra. Well, 2 minutes later, I sold my Cobra to Pam.
Really?
So I called Super Performance and I said, I want to order a GT40. I think it was $100 a quarter, GT40 Mark II. And they said, well, that was just a promotional piece to take the pulse and see if there's enough interest. We're not going to build that car for 2 years. Man, I just sold my Cobra. Go to Edmunds.com. It's late November. If they have a Ford GT, it's going to sit all winter. They're going to want to get rid of them. So I got home, and the next day I sent emails. I found 15 white and blue stripes, my first choice. Sent out an email, retired professional driver. I want the car for my personal use. I'm not buying it to flip, and I'm not paying any more than sticker price for the car. No, they want to jack me up.
Really?
So it was. The next day was Friday, so I went to Plan B. Plan B was blue with white stripes. There were 3 of them. So I sent the same email I sent the day before. I get a hit from Rich Ford in Hemlock, Michigan, and they only wanted 7,000 over sticker. It was the best deal I came across. So I waited till 4:45. It's Friday afternoon at 4:45. The salesman's name was Matt. I said, Matt, this is Michael Murray calling. I'm interested in buying that Ford GT you have, but I'm not going to pay over sticker for it. You got 15 minutes to make a decision, or I go to the next guy on the list. Oh, there was no next guy on the list. But he called me back in 5 minutes and said, when you coming to get it? That's how I got my first Ford GT. It was through that car that I got into the Ford GT forum. They would have a rally every year. The two big rallies were the first one. We got to watch the last cars being built up at Saline in Troy, Michigan. And that was the start of a lot of good friendships. Through the forum, we had lobbied Ford to we didn't want to get jacked around by the dealers like we did with the 2005s and 6s.
Yep.
So the rally was held in Dearborn at the Henry Ford Museum.
Sure.
And we were over at the engineering center across the street looking at the new cars, the new Ford GT. And Raj Nair, who was the top man at that time, came to us and said, well, here's a loud and clear. You're going to buy the car basically through us. You're not going to pay a premium for it. And we're going to choose the buyers. And if you have a 2005 or 6, you'll have preference. I'll tell you how I got the car. You got a 1-minute video. They put together an incredible video with me, the car, all the trophies, all the dash plaques. They really did an outstanding job.
Really?
My friend Greg Armstrong, very sharp. He was a journalism major in college, and he also was very good on the computer. He knew how to shorten the URLs so I could have 2 videos. I had the application video, and then I had the YouTube video that had 968,000 views, and in the paragraph he wrote, today it has 968,000 views. By the time you review this application, it'll be over 1 million, because we're getting 1,500 hits a day. They also tied in, my claim to fame as a pinstriper is I pinstripe the oldest Ford known to exist.
Really?
Yes. It's a 1903 number 30. It's red. It is on display at Ford World Headquarters in Dearborn, Michigan, right downstairs in the lobby.
Wow.
So he tied that into the application. So I'm anxiously waiting. In the meantime, through the Ford GT forum, I got to go to the 24 hours at Le Mans, France. And it was just the greatest experience of my life. My friend Donnie Fritz and I went together. So we were at Le Mans, and the way I introduced myself to Bill Ford, I had a picture of that 1903 Ford up on my cell phone. And I went up to Bill and introduced myself, and I said, hi Bill, I'm Michael Murray from Toledo. I said, do you recognize this car? He said, yeah, it's my car. I said, I pinstriped it. No. Yes, sir, I pinstriped that car.
Wow.
You'll find my name on the left side, right below the door. Every time Bill Ford would walk by with somebody else, he'd point me out and say, that's the guy that pinstriped the 1903 Ford down in the lobby.
Wow.
But the Ford family, they're wonderful people. I got to spend time with both Bill Ford and Edsel Ford, just down-to-earth people. They had a beautiful hospitality building right on where the cars would come off the back straightaway, 2-story building. They brought in the Michelin chef. We had tablecloths, we had china, we had silverware, all the wine glasses. They had a dessert table up 24 hours a day. They brought in helicopters on Saturday night to take us for a tour around the racetrack. They had 4 garages about 100 yards away, and golf carts would take you from the hospitality building over to the pit area. And they had hospitality suites above the garages where we could watch them. It was incredible. And by the way, Ford won the race on their 50th anniversary, which was just an incredible feat. And then I found out I got chosen to buy, in the 3rd year of production, I get the new car. I got home and I wrote Bill Ford and Edsel Ford a thank you letter for the greatest experience of my life, and they both wrote me back.
No kidding.
Beautiful notes, and I have them framed in my Hall of Fame area in my art studio, and it was just one of the greatest experiences of my life, all because I'm a teacher. I like to teach young people how to be successful in life. You have to take risks, and you have to get out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
And I live by, if you invite me, I come. As a result, I've traveled the world. I've met the most incredible people, and I found out that everybody's got a story. I live a clean life. I live by, and I want to teach others to always take the high road. always take the high road, and you'll have an incredible life. Yeah. It goes back to one of the stories that I'd like to tell is I was very sickly my senior year in high school. I was in the hospital 4 times. I had an automobile accident, appendicitis. I had a nasal operation, and I had one more. And I was just skin and bones, and my dear old Aunt Katie, who lived out on Maumee Bay, took me home from the hospital to fatten me up. And one morning I'm making my bed upstairs, and it was raining, pouring down rain. And I made the mistake of saying to my little 5-foot-tall aunt, "Isn't it a rotten day?" Well, she put her finger in my face and said, "I don't ever want to hear that out of you again. Every day's a beautiful day. Count your blessings. You got 2 eyes, you got 2 ears, you can hear, you can see, you got 2 arms, you got 2 legs. Count your blessings." I never forgot the lesson.
Well, thank you for your life story. I love hearing everything about it. Incredible racing career. I mean, you're an incredible guy, and you have a lot of nice stories and lessons to tell that I think we all can learn from. But I think I'd like to actually move on to the car next, if that's okay.
Sure.
So, I guess what are some of its incredible features? What do you like about the Ford GT? I guess the new one compared to the old. What do you have to say about this specific car?
This car is the most incredible car I've ever owned, and it is a engineering magnificent piece of equipment. The car is all carbon fiber.
Wow.
So the result is very lightweight. Some of the features that are very significant compared to the old car: number one, it has a dual clutch 7-speed automatic transmission.
Wow.
It automatically downshifts. So let's say you're flying down the road and you get on the brakes and you're going to slow down, it automatically blips between the shifts, just like if you were racing a stick shift. Another thing that's incredible about it is the carbon fiber brakes. This car stops on a dime. It's incredible. See, the whole idea when you're going to go fast is you got to keep air out from underneath the car. That's why you want to lower the car.
Right.
And it's a flat bottom car, and there's diffusers in the rear that suck the air out from underneath. Well, there's also 2 vents right up here that close automatically when you put it in track mode. It's a fun car. All the gadgets on the steering wheel, everything on the steering wheel, the turn signals, the bright lights, the speaker for the radio.
Wow.
It's a phenomenally engineered car, and everything is built for a reason. See, like when the air goes in the grill and cools the radiators here in front, and then the air is ducted away to go down the side of the car, because if the air goes down the side of the car, you see the intercoolers for the twin turbos, got one on each side. And then there's very unique, there's a hole in the middle of the tail light where that air exits.
Wow.
There are vents along the engine compartment to suck the hot air out. You have a vent right here to cool the front brakes, and then there's an exit right behind the wheel.
Wow.
Everything is done for a reason, and it's a phenomenal design. It was Ford took a clean sheet of paper and just built an incredible car.
Sure.
And I got to tell you about the vanity plate. The vanity plate is Phoenix.
Uh-huh.
Well, that came about because Ford decided to do this program, go back to Le Mans. They did it in total secrecy. They took an old design studio in the basement of the engineering center, and there were 6 people that worked on the team. Instead of the modern day to get in an office, push a bunch of buttons or show a barcode, no. 6 old-fashioned keys got you in and out of that studio. That way they kept it totally top secrecy. Well, the way we found out about the car was they wanted to display it in 2015 at the International Auto Show in Detroit. At Cobo Hall, you're not allowed to set up your own display. The union sets up the display for you. So Ford sent over a drawing to the union, and it said, put the Ford Fusion here, the F-150 here, the Mustang here, and here, Phoenix. Well,
Okay. Wow.
somebody from the union figured out that there's something going on here, and somehow somebody ended up at the Ford GT Forum with that drawing.
Sure.
And that's how the word got out. We knew what it was. Ford was introducing a car to go back to Le Mans. I'll take you for a quick ride, and that way you can film some of the dash. I don't think that we can go fast around here.
Oh, I don't mind. We don't need to.
We'll take a slow ride.
Thank you. Excellent. interior.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, is this the VIN number here, or a part of the VIN number?
Well, this is important to Ford GT owners.
Okay.
K stands for 2019. 085, it's the 85th car that was built in 19.
Wow. Wow.
On the car cover that I bought with the car, it also has the American flag and KO85.
Wow. Wow. And I see all the carbon fiber. I mean, the dashboard's carbon fiber, the floor, the door sill.
Everything is carbon fiber.
That's incredible. And how much does this car weigh in total?
It weighs about 3,200 pounds.
3,200 pounds. Wow.
It has 647 horsepower, V6, twin cam, 4-valve, twin turbo. Now here's all your comfort, air, heat. This is a computer.
Navigation, everything you'd
Navigation,
expect,
everything
right?
is here.
Okay.
This is the parking brake. If there's a driveway, a bump, this will lift the front end 2 inches.
Wow.
This is a comfort level for the shock settings in normal mode.
Traction control switch?
Traction control.
Wow.
And this is emergency.
Wow.
And then here's your different driving, park, reverse, neutral, drive. Over here are your different modes.
Okay.
So if we start with T is for track mode, S is for sport mode. That's if somebody pulls up next to you in a Corvette or a Hellcat and you want to play with them.
Uh-huh.
Normal mode, wet mode, V mode.
Wow.
We're going to stay in, well, we'll stay in sport.
Excellent.
This is headlights to dim your brights or flash them at people.
Sure.
Turn signal. Cruise control. Radio stations. Volume of the radio or the GPS, whatever you want to listen to. This is to turn on the Bluetooth.
Wow.
Turn signal. Variable speed wipers.
Okay.
To turn on the wipers.
Racing inspired, the steering wheel. I mean, it's made to be just like the
and here are
real
your
deal.
paddle shifters.
Wow.
You can it'll shift automatically, or you can up or down shift by the paddle shifters.
Okay. And what kind of tires are on this Ford GT?
Super sticky Michelin tires.
Wow. Those are probably expensive.
I was told if I get 10,000 miles out, I'm doing I'm doing well.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And of course, you have to have a radar detector.
Of course. Wow.
But you'll have an adrenaline rush the rest of the day.
Yes, yes. I can feel it. Wow.
Well, I'm in sport mode right now, so it's a stiff suspension. If we were
Is it?
in normal mode, I could soften the shocks and it'd be even
Really?
more comfortable.
Wow. And there's an engine back there, huh?
It's back there.
Wow. Very cool. Oh my goodness. Wow. Am I hearing like a the twin turbos? Is that
Yes.
what the whirring is? Okay.
It was funny when I first drove the car.
Uh-huh.
The turbochargers were unspooling, and it sounded like there was a ambulance siren.
Oh.
I keep looking around. Where's the ambulance?
Really? Oh, that's funny. Now, do you use this as just a weekend cruiser, or what do you specifically use this car for?
I literally only take it to car shows.
Just the car shows. Would you ever track this car?
Never.
Or never.
Been there, done that.
Really? Oh.
Well, and looking, if I'm going to put a car on a track, one, I got to be able to afford to replace it.
Right.
In case you break it, which
Yep.
I don't want to do.
Nope.
But I want all the safety equipment. I want the driver's suit, the helmet,
Yes.
the whole 9 yards.
That's good.
Because once you've done racing professionally, you have great respect for all the dangers, all the things
Yes.
that can happen.
Yes.
I'm very conscientious about that.
Right.
I'll never track the car.
Wow. Wow.
It's half throttle.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. This is this is the most incredible car I've ever been in. I gotta tell you, this is something else.
And I agree with you. I've never been anything else.
Wow.
I've never been anything like it.
And do most people know what this car is, or do they guess? So is that a Ferrari? Is that a Lamborghini? Or
A lot of people think it's a Ferrari.
Ferrari. Yep.
I tell them, look at the windshield.
Look at the. That's the giveaway. And do you believe that there will be a future Ford GT? I know you mentioned that this was made for the 50th anniversary of the Le Mans wins at France. But will there be another GT, do you think, someday?
I'm sure they'll bring out another one for a special anniversary.
Sure.
Just, but I think it'll be a while.
I would not get used to the steering wheel controls for the turn signal and everything.
You know, you get used to it.
Do you?
Oh yeah, you know where everything is. You don't have to look for it. You feel it.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for the video today. I really appreciate the chance and opportunity to come out here and interview you and get the ride in the GT. It was an incredible experience, so thank you so much.
You are most welcome, James, anytime.
Oh, thank you very much.
See you, buddy.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, we made it back. I had a fantastic time with Michael today. He had so much to tell, really interesting stories, and I'm so glad that we get to memorialize those stories on YouTube. It was such a fantastic experience. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. But if you guys are interested in learning more about Michael and his life, he's actually currently writing a book called Biker Tales ... We Don't Eat Our Young. He's going to hopefully have that out soon. He's still working on it, but if you do want to learn more about him in the future, be sure to look out for that book. And once again, a huge thanks goes out to Michael Murray for making this video possible. I had a great time with him and can't wait to see him again. Anyways, thank you all so much again for watching the video, and I'll see you soon in the next one.
Super performance, because when I did my...
Yes, sir. Are you all right?
Sir, if you wouldn't mind, be behind me, okay?
How's that?
Oh, we're just doing an interview for YouTube. I'm sorry.
I realize that.
But
that's
it
the problem.
disturbs me to have you over here.
No, that's the problem. Because I'm actually here an hour early. I got a call from the Perrysburg police that there was filming going on here, which is required for, we need a state permit in order to film on our property, which is a problem.
Kidding.
I thought it was public property here. Is this not?
No, this is
Okay.
this is the nonprofit historic site. We're gonna have to have.
We'll be gone.
Wow.
What happens in the Ford GT stays in the Ford GT.
Yes, sir.